Moshi Mosh. Hello and welcome to my podcast within 5 minutes. This is your host Harsh Patel wishing you a fantastic and a beautiful day. A couple of weeks back, I went on a midnight trek. We started the trek at 3:30 am in the morning so that we could watch the highly marveled sunrise from the peak of the hill. As the trek started before dawn, there was no visibility of the terrain we were climbing. All we had was a torchlight that was guiding us forward in the rugged terrain that was covered with steep rocks, muddy tracks, and casual boulders. The weather wasn't particularly friendly either. A slight drizzle, stirred by the windy air, left us feeling moist and cold. Being physically active, I could cover longer distances quite faster than my friends, and I challenged myself to make it to the top of the peak before everyone who had started earlier than me. A friend of mine was way ahead of me, as she set out earlier than us, all by herself, and reaching her was my milestone number 1. It did not take me long to catch up to her, and when I did, I gently tapped her shoulder, and the first thing she told me was, "Oh, thank you for catching up to me. I finally found the journey." I was momentarily surprised. She continued, "I met a person on the way who asked me why I was trekking by myself. He told me that as much as the trek is about the view at the peak, it is also about the journey. And by leaving your friends behind, you are missing the journey that would make it memorable." She started feeling bad about leaving her friends behind and was almost about to stop and wait for the rest to catch up. But right at that moment, I showed up and she felt relieved. She was so delighted that she wanted to catch up to the person and tell him, "I finally found my journey." Milestone number 2 was to catch up to that man. When we finally caught up, he looked at me and asked her, "Did you find your journey?" And she said, "Yes," proudly. That was the start of a fresh experience as the three of us started trekking together. The guy asked if we had any interesting stories to share. Both of us were awkward and silent, so he went on narrating a story by himself. And once he was done, the ice was shattered, and I joined in by narrating a few Chinese folklore stories that I've also spoken about in this podcast. 4 stories later, we reached the peak. It was something. The moment we started narrating stories, we lost track of the time. The ache in my legs was gone, and my mind was no longer restless. I stopped wondering about how much of the journey was still left. I stopped asking myself to reach the peak. I stopped thinking if I will be able to climb the steep rocks. All I was trying to do was to keep taking that next step and continue narrating the story. And that is when it hit me. It's all in our heads. We suffer more in our imagination and thoughts than in reality. Our thoughts shape our reality. We are what we think. The fact is that perception is everything. William Shakespeare wrote in one of his plays, "Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so." If your team loses a match, is it bad? For you, yes. For the opponents and the supporters, it is a good thing. And for the people who are disinterested, it's neither good nor bad. The world, by itself, has no objective meaning, but the way we view it affects how we feel. If you paid a lot of money for something, you don't want to feel like an idiot for doing so. So you focus on the benefits of the product and downplay the not so good stuff. Depressed people see the world as disappointing, sad, and hopeless, and can only see evidence that supports their judgment. But just like how you're feeling tired, your thoughts make you believe that every slope is harder than it actually is. The more you yearn to stop, the harder the trek becomes. But what this means is that you get to choose how to interpret events without the fear of being wrong. Your negative beliefs are not accurate perceptions. They are a way of filtering too much information that flows by the minute. You can choose to have a negative, positive, connected, disconnected, happy, or a sad filter. The filter you choose will impact your world. If you say, "Oh, there are only people tearing down each other apart in my world," then that is what your mind will get trained to see and believe in. But if you say, "Oh, people in my life are helping each other build," then your mind will start looking for other people who are doing the same thing. Personally, I'd like to believe that we should all look for the best, because your perception becomes your reality. We must change the attention of our thoughts because what we think directly influences how we feel. It's all in your head, your negative thoughts and your positive thoughts. What seems like a bad thing may only be bad because you're thinking of it that way. You are probably just imagining the consequences and blowing it out of proportion. It's not the reality, but a figment of your thoughts. Start imagining your life the way you want it. Create a picture in your mind and believe in it. You don't have to tell anybody. You just need to have your own quiet confidence that you can make the picture come true. That is when you will start making different choices in line with your picture. You will start taking small steps in the right direction. What have you got to lose? Close your eyes. It's all in your head. It's not real. Take a leap of faith and jump. You will become what you think, because we live in a world of thoughts. I hope I've provided you some meaning today. We all tend to live in our heads a lot, so let's make sure it's a good place to stay. I'll see you in the next episode really soon. Bye.